The Moonbound Heir, Rise of the Silver Wolves. Episode 1, The Silver Mark. The full moon hung impossibly large in the sky, casting silver light over the quiet village of Eldermoor. Lyra crouched at the edge of the forest, heart hammering, breath visible in the cold night air. Tonight was different. She could feel it, a prickling on her skin, an energy rising from the earth beneath her feet. Something inside her stirred, a voice unspoken but urgent. Her fingers brushed against her wrist, and she froze. Please, if you are finding the werewolf fantasy story intriguing, kindly like, comment, subscribe, and turn on your notification bell. A glow pulsed there, soft at first, then growing brighter with each heartbeat. Lyra's eyes widened. A silver mark, intricate, almost alive, burned against her skin. She had never seen anything like it, and yet, somehow it felt familiar, as if it had been waiting for this very moment all her life. Lyra! A whisper rustled through the trees, barely audible but carrying weight, almost pleading. She spun around, but the forest seemed empty. Her pulse raced. The wind carried a scent she had never known, sharp, wild, and dangerous. Fear pricked her chest, but beneath it was something else. Curiosity. This mark was not a curse. It was a key, though to what, she did not yet know. Suddenly, a branch snapped behind her. Lyra whirled, only to see a massive shadow moving with impossible speed. Eyes golden, piercing, locked onto hers. The figure emerged from the darkness, tall, broad, terrifying yet magnetic. The Alpha Kale, the leader of the feared Silver Wolf clan, who had hunted her ancestors for reasons no one dared speak of. You, he growled, voice low and dangerous. Do you know what you carry on your skin? Lyra swallowed hard, the glow on her wrist reflecting in his golden eyes. She shook her head. The answer, whatever it was, could change everything. Her village, her life, the world she thought she knew. All of it teetered on the edge of something she couldn't yet understand. Kyle stepped closer, and the forest seemed to hold its breath. Lyra could feel the pull of something far older than her, a power that whispered promises of destiny and danger. Her heart leapt, part fear, part exhilaration. And then, just as she thought she might speak, a blood-curdling howl split the air. From the shadows, dozens of figures emerged, faster than the eye could track. Wolves, but not ordinary ones. Eyes like molten gold, teeth bared, moving as if drawn by the same energy that pulsed from her wrist. Kyle growled, stepping in front of her, claws flexing. They know. And now, so do you. Lyra's breath caught. She realized in that instant that her life and the secret she bore would never be the same. The silver mark had awakened, and with it, enemies she didn't even know existed were already hunting her. Her heart pounded. Her destiny was no longer hidden, and the night had just begun. Lyra reached for the mark, her fingers trembling, but before she could understand its power, the first wolf lunged, and everything went black. Episode 2, The Alpha's Hunt. Rival wolves arrive, attacking her village. Lyra escapes but is captured by the mysterious Alpha Kale. The forest exploded in a frenzy of snarls and glowing eyes. Lyra's village was under attack, and the very air seemed to tremble with death. Her heart raced as she realized tonight nothing would ever be the same. Lyra stumbled backward, claws and fangs flashing in the silver moonlight as rival wolves lunged at her from every shadow. Her wrist burned where the silver mark pulsed, the glow intensifying with each step she took. Panic clawed at her chest, but instinct propelled her forward, deeper into the forest. Then, a blinding flash of movement intercepted the pack. Kale, Alpha of the Silver Wolf clan, landed between her and the wolves, golden eyes blazing with authority and lethal precision. Stay behind me, he commanded, and the wolves recoiled, snarling but unwilling to challenge him. Kyle's movements were fluid and terrifying, fangs flashing as he tore through the pack, while Lyra clung to the edge of fear and awe. Who are you? She gasped, dark skin glistening in the moonlight, the silver mark pulsing like a heartbeat. I am Kale, Alpha of the Silver Wolf clan. And you? You are marked by destiny, he said, eyes flicking to her glowing wrist. Just as Lyra tried to process his words, a deafening howl split the night. From deeper in the trees, a larger, more vicious pack emerged faster and deadlier than anything she had seen. Kyle grabbed her wrist, pulling her close, and in one fluid leap, carried her through the chaos. Trees blurred past, the forest floor shaking under the pounding paws of their pursuers. But then, a shadow larger than any wolf leapt from the darkness ahead. Kale tensed, growling low, and Lyra's breath caught in her throat. Whatever it was coming for them, and there was nowhere to run. Episode 3, Blood and Moonlight. Kale realizes Lyra's mark may be the key to uniting the fractured Silver Wolf clan. The shadow lunged, massive and terrifying, teeth bared, eyes burning like molten fire, and for the first time, Lyra felt her heart stop. She had never seen anything like it, and instinct screamed that tonight, her life would change forever. Kyle moved with impossible speed, placing himself between Lyra and the monstrous creature. His claws struck with precision, fangs flashing as he took down the attacker in a flurry of movement that made the forest seem to slow. Lyra, clinging tightly to him, felt the silver mark blaze hotter than ever, pulsing in response to the danger. She could feel its energy coursing through her veins, alive, powerful, and terrifying. Breathing hard, Kyle landed gracefully on the forest floor, eyes flicking toward her wrist. "This mark," he muttered, voice low but urgent. "It's not just a symbol, it's a key. The key to the Silver Wolf clan." Lyra's pulse quickened. "The clan?" she whispered. "You mean... I'm..." Kale's gaze hardened. "You carry the power to unite us, to restore what has been broken for decades. But if your mark falls into the wrong hands..." His words trailed off as another growl rippled through the trees. Lyra's stomach churned. She realized that the enemy was still close, hunting them with relentless precision. Suddenly, Kale's golden eyes narrowed, scanning the shadows. "They're coming," he said, his voice low and commanding. Before Lyra could react, he scooped her up effortlessly, running faster than she thought possible, weaving between trees, dodging under fallen branches, the forest floor a blur beneath them. Her dark skin glistened with sweat, her gown torn and catching on branches, but she clung to him, adrenaline and fear mixing with the pulsing energy of her mark. "Why me?" she asked breathlessly, voice trembling. Kyle didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked at her with an intensity that made her heart stutter. "Because you are the only one who can bring the clans together, Lyra. And if I fail to protect you tonight, everything we've lost will remain lost." As the moonlight pierced the treetops, the enemy pack appeared again, larger, more coordinated, their fangs glinting like knives. Kyle's jaw tightened, claws flexing, ready to fight, but Lyra noticed something unsettling. The mark on her wrist began to glow uncontrollably, sending a wave of heat through her body. Before she could understand the full extent of its power, a shadow detached from the pack and leapt straight at them with blinding speed, and Kale's protective roar echoed as the world erupted into chaos once more. Episode 4, Secrets of the Forest. Lyra learns of a hidden forest sanctuary where her powers can be unlocked, but danger lurks. The beast's snarl shook the trees as it lunged, claws stretched wide. Lyra's scream ripped through the night, but before she could blink, Kale's roar thundered in response. The ground itself seemed to quake beneath his fury. Kale collided with the massive wolf midair, the impact echoing like a thunderclap. They tumbled across the forest floor in a blur of claws and fangs. Lyra scrambled back, clutching her glowing wrist, the silver mark pulsing like a heartbeat out of control. The air shimmered around her, as if the very forest reacted to her fear. "Lyra!" Kale's voice tore through the chaos, desperate yet commanding. "The mark, focus on it." Her chest heaved, her mind spinning. Focus? How could she focus when blood sprayed across the moonlit ground and rival wolves circled in, waiting for Kale to fall? But something deep inside stirred a whisper, a pull. Closing her eyes, she pressed her palm against the burning mark. A soft wave of light rippled outward, forcing the circling wolves back a step, their snarls faltering. Kale seized the opening, delivering a killing blow to the beast that had lunged at them. Its body hit the ground with a sickening thud. The forest grew still, save for the ragged sound of Lyra's breath and Kale's low growl. Golden eyes met hers. For a heartbeat, she saw something there, not just the ferocity of an alpha, but recognition. "You felt it, didn't you?" he said, his voice hushed now. "The sanctuary is calling you." Lyra blinked, confused. "Sanctuary?" Kyle stood, towering over her, blood streaking his arm, but his gaze unwavering. "Deep within this forest lies a place older than the clans themselves, a sanctuary bound by moonlight and blood where the truth of your power can be awakened. Only there will you understand what the mark truly means." Lyra's heart pounded. A hidden sanctuary, a destiny she hadn't asked for, and a power that frightened her as much as it fascinated her. But before she could respond, the wind shifted. The smell of blood and ash filled the air. Lyra froze. Her village. She could see flames flickering in the distance through the tree line. Screams carried on the night air, piercing and raw. The rival wolves had not only hunted her, they had attacked her home. "No," Lyra whispered, legs trembling as she stumbled forward. But Kale's hand shot out, grabbing her wrist firmly. "You can't go back. They want you. The sanctuary is your only chance." Tears stung her eyes as she struggled against his grip. Behind her, her people were dying, and yet Kale was dragging her deeper into the forest. A branch snapped ahead. Dozens of glowing eyes emerged from the shadows, blocking their path. Kyle snarled, pulling Lyra behind him, but this time, the wolves were not just enemies. Among them stood a cloaked figure, human yet radiating a darkness that made Lyra's blood run cold. Episode 5. The Bond Awakens. A forbidden connection forms between Lyra and Kyle. The bond gives her glimpses of past battles. The cloaked figure stepped forward, wolves parting around him like shadows bowing to darkness. His voice was low, serpentine, and chilling. "The girl belongs to me." Kyle's growl rumbled deep in his chest as he shoved Lyra behind him. "Over my dead body." The figure chuckled, lifting a pale hand. The rival wolves surged forward. Kyle roared and shifted in a flash of fur and muscle, his massive wolf form colliding with the attackers in a blur of fangs and claws. Lyra's pulse raced as chaos erupted around her. Every instinct screamed at her to run, yet her feet stayed rooted. The mark on her wrist burned hotter than fire. The cloaked figure's gaze fixed on her. "You feel it, don't you? The bond tying you to him. Dangerous, forbidden. If you stay near him, it will consume you both." Before she could answer, Kale slammed the last wolf to the ground, fur dripping with blood, his golden eyes blazing with fury. But as his gaze landed on Lyra, something strange happened. A surge of energy pulsed between them, raw and undeniable, like a tether snapping into place. Lyra gasped. Her vision blurred, and suddenly she wasn't in the forest anymore. Flashes of battle filled her mind. Kale, in his wolf form, leading an army of silver-furred warriors, blood soaking the earth, a dark crown gleaming under the moonlight. She heard screams, roars, the clash of steel. A figure cloaked in shadow raised a hand, and entire packs fell in unison. "Lyra!" Kyle's voice pierced the vision. She stumbled back into the present, trembling. I saw you," she whispered, eyes wide. "I saw battles. Things that already happened." Kyle froze, realization dawning in his gaze. "The bond," he muttered. "It's awakened." "The what?" "Our souls." His jaw tightened. "They're linked now. My battles, my past, my pain, you'll feel it all. And I." His words cut off, his chest rising and falling with an intensity that made her breath hitch. "I'll feel yours." The weight of his words pressed down on her, a forbidden bond, a destiny she hadn't chosen. Yet deep inside, some part of her didn't want to fight it. The cloaked figure smirked, his wolves still circling. "Good. Let the bond take root. It will destroy you both faster than I ever could. Lyra's mark flared again, light spilling into the forest, forcing the shadows back. The cloaked man hissed, retreating into the darkness with his pack. Enjoy what little time you have, Alpha, he sneered. The girl's blood will claim your throne, and your life. Silence fell, broken only by Lyra's ragged breathing. She turned to Kale, ready to demand answers, but stopped cold. His golden eyes had dimmed, his body trembling. He collapsed to one knee, clutching his chest as if the bond itself were tearing him apart. Episode 6, Shadows in the Pack. Betrayal arises within Kyle's pack as some wolves conspire against Lyra. Kyle's body shuddered violently, his claws digging into the dirt as if the earth itself could anchor him. Lyra dropped to her knees beside him, panic flashing in her eyes. Kyle, what's happening to you? But before he could answer, shadows stirred in the tree line, and she realized with chilling certainty, danger wasn't gone. It was only changing shape. Kyle forced himself upright, though his chest heaved with effort, sweat gleaming on his temple. We need to move, he rasped, his voice hoarse but commanding. The bond, it's making me weak. And if the pack sees me like this, he broke off, the golden glow of his eyes flickering. They'll see weakness. They'll turn on you. Lyra's stomach knotted. Already she could sense hostility when Kale's warriors arrived. The wolves emerged from the forest clearing, broad-shouldered, their gazes sharp and suspicious. Their loyalty to Kale was clear, but the way their eyes lingered on her made the hair on her neck rise. Who is she? One wolf growled, his tone accusing. The girl marked by shadow. She's the reason our alpha bleeds. She saved him, Lyra shot back, voice trembling but fierce. But her words only deepened the tension. Murmurs spread through the pack like wildfire, whispers of curses and betrayal. Lyra felt their stares piercing her skin, branding her an intruder. Kyle silenced them with a guttural snarl, his alpha aura rolling over the clearing. For a heartbeat, the wolves lowered their heads. But Lyra noticed it, the subtle exchange of glances, the twitch of lips curling into smirks. Seeds of doubt had already been planted. Later that night, as Kale rested in his tent, Lyra overheard them. Hidden just beyond the firelight, she caught fragments of voices. She doesn't belong here. She's the reason the cloaked one found us. If we hand her over, maybe the alpha will be freed of this bond. Her chest tightened. Betrayal wasn't creeping in. It was already among them. Returning quietly, Lyra found Kale awake, his golden eyes watching her with unnerving intensity. You heard them, he said softly, his tone unreadable. They fear you. Fear me? She whispered, her throat dry. Or hate me? His silence was answer enough, yet as he reached for her hand, the bond pulsed between them, stronger now, a tether neither could sever. Stay close, Kale murmured. If they turn, I'll protect you. But even as he said it, Lyra saw the strain in his eyes. She wasn't sure if he was promising protection for her or desperately convincing himself he could keep it. That night, when the camp quieted, Lyra awoke to the sound of footsteps creeping toward her tent. She stiffened, heart hammering. Through the thin canvas she saw shadows looming wolves of Kale's own pack. One of them whispered, blade gleaming in his hand. End her before she ends us. Episode 7. The Silver Trial. Lyra undergoes a dangerous trial to prove her worth and awaken her latent powers. The blade glinted in the firelight, sharp enough to split her throat before she could even scream. Lyra's breath froze in her chest as the assassin's shadow loomed closer. Just when she thought her heartbeat would give her away, Kale's voice thundered from the darkness. Enough. Full expansion 11. The wolves froze, caught like guilty children before their alpha's wrath. Kale's golden eyes burned as he stepped into the tent, his aura crackling with power. The assassin dropped his blade, falling to his knees, but the damage was done. The pack had turned, and trust was shattered. You dare draw steel against what is mine? Kale's voice was low, dangerous yet controlled. "She's cursed," the wolf stammered, not daring to lift his gaze. "Her presence weakens you, Alpha. If she stays, we all fall." The words rippled through the camp, sparking growls of agreement from the shadows. Kale's chest rose and fell, his rage barely contained. Lyra stepped forward before he could strike, her voice trembling but firm. "Then let me prove myself. If they doubt me, I'll give them no reason to." Kyle turned sharply to her, shock flashing in his eyes. "Lyra." But she didn't falter. "I'll take your trial, whatever it is." A tense silence fell, broken only by the crackle of the fire. Finally, Kale spoke, his voice like a blade sliding from its sheath. "The Silver Trial. No outsider has ever survived it." Gasps rippled through the pack. The Silver Trial was legend, an ordeal designed to strip flesh from spirit, to test the very soul of a wolf. And Lyra wasn't even a wolf. But she lifted her chin, forcing down her fear. "Then I'll be the first." At dawn, they led her deep into the forest, to a clearing where moonlight pooled like liquid silver though the sun had barely risen. Ancient runes glowed on the ground, circling a stone altar etched with wolf sigils. The air hummed with ancient magic, thick and suffocating. "The trial will test your blood," Kale murmured, his voice softer now, only for her ears. "It will force the truth from within you. If your blood rejects it, you will die." Her pulse thundered, but she nodded. "Then it's time to learn the truth." As she stepped onto the altar, the runes flared, burning brighter than the sun. Pain seared through her body, white-hot, like claws raking her veins. She collapsed to her knees, gasping, her vision fracturing. Shadows coiled around her, whispering her deepest fears, her mother's screams, the night of fire, the endless running. "You are nothing. You are cursed. You are weak." "No!" she screamed, tears streaking her face. "I am more than that." And then something shifted. Deep within her blood, a spark ignited. The whispers recoiled, hissing. Her veins lit with silver fire, burning brighter than the runes beneath her feet. She lifted her head, her eyes glowing not human, not wolf, but something in between. The pack gasped in awe and terror. Lyra staggered to her feet, silver flames dancing on her skin, her voice ringing with power not her own. "I am not cursed. I am chosen." But as the runes blazed, a crack split the altar beneath her. From the shadows of the trees, a cloaked figure stepped forward, his voice a cold hiss. Yes, chosen, but not for him. Episode 8, Night of the Howl. A rival clan attacks under the full moon, forcing Lyra and Kale to fight side by side. The cloaked figure's voice was like ice on her skin. Yes, chosen, but not for him. His words slithered into the hearts of the pack, sowing unease. Kale stepped forward, a growl rumbling deep in his chest, but before he could challenge the stranger, a howl shattered the night, long, fierce, and answered by dozens more. The forest erupted with the sound of war. Every wolf in Kale's pack stiffened. The answering howls weren't theirs. From the tree line, glowing red eyes lit the darkness like scattered embers. The rival clan had come. "The Bloodfang!" Kale snarled, fury in his golden gaze. He grabbed Lyra's arm, dragging her back. "They've been watching us, waiting." The cloaked figure smiled, fading like mist into the shadows, leaving only his taunting echo. "Prove yourself, chosen one." Then chaos erupted. Wolves poured from the forest, massive and snarling, their fangs flashing under the light of the rising full moon. Kyle shifted in a burst of golden fire, his form expanding into a monstrous black wolf streaked with gold across his fur. His roar shook the clearing, a sound of dominance that sent chills down Lyra's spine. But the Bloodfang weren't intimidated. They lunged. Lyra stumbled back as claws raked the air inches from her face. Instinct screamed at her to run, but the bond pulsed within her chest, tethering her to Kale. He fought like a storm unleashed, ripping through the attackers, but for every enemy he felled, 2 more surged forward. "Lyra!" His voice slammed into her through the bond, desperate, commanding. "The fire! Use it!" Her hands trembled as silver flames flickered at her fingertips, the same ones born from the trial. She raised her arms, but doubt clawed at her. What if she burned him instead? What if she wasn't strong enough? A blood-fang wolf lunged at her throat. Panic exploded into power. Her scream tore from her lips, and with it, a surge of silver fire burst outward, incinerating the wolf mid-air. The pack froze, staring at her in stunned silence. Kyle's golden eyes locked on hers, fierce and proud. "You're mine to fight beside," he growled through the bond. Something inside her clicked. They weren't just tethered, they were partners in this war. She raised her hands again, fire steady this time, and together they carved a path through the bloodfang assault. His fangs and claws, her fire and light, weaving like one. But the battle wasn't without cost. Lyra's strength wavered, every burst of flame draining her faster. She fell to one knee, vision blurring. Kyle shielded her with his body, his snarls shaking the earth. And then, silence. The bloodfang retreated suddenly, vanishing back into the trees. Confusion rippled through the clearing. Why stop when victory was within their grasp? The answer came in the form of a single bloodfang warrior who stepped from the shadows, taller, broader, with a scar across his face and eyes like crimson fire. His voice carried like thunder as he pointed at Lyra. "The girl belongs to me." Episode 9. Secrets Unveiled. Lyra uncovers hidden truths about her parents and the ancient prophecy. The Bloodfang Alpha's words cut through the night like a blade. "The girl belongs to me." The world seemed to stop. Kyle's golden eyes burned with fury, his massive wolf form crouching low, ready to kill. But deep inside, Lyra's blood pulsed violently, reacting not to Kyle, but to the rival Alpha's voice. It was as though her body remembered something her mind could not. "Over my dead body!" Kyle snarled, his voice reverberating with lethal promise. The bond between him and Lyra flared, hot and furious, yet her trembling hands betrayed her confusion. Why did her pulse race when that scarred Alpha looked at her? Why did his words feel like chains pulling at her soul? The Bloodfang Alpha smirked. "Then prepare your grave, Kale of the Golden Flame. You guard what was never yours." Before the fight could erupt, a horn blared from the shadows, calling the Bloodfang warriors back. The rival Alpha lingered a moment longer, his crimson eyes locked on Lyra. "The prophecy will not be denied. Ask her about her blood, and she will know." Then, with a mocking bow, he vanished into the forest. Kyle shifted back into human form, chest heaving, sweat and blood streaking his skin. He stormed to Lyra, gripping her shoulders. What did he mean? What prophecy? I don't know, Lyra whispered, though her head spun with fragments of memory. A lullaby her mother used to sing, words she never understood. A warning whispered before the fire consumed her village. Your blood will either unite the moon or break it forever. That night, Kale refused to let her out of his sight. He led her into the heart of the pack's sanctuary, to an ancient chamber lined with stone tablets and silver runes. If there are answers, they're here, he said grimly. Lyra traced the carvings, her fingers trembling as symbols lit beneath her touch. Images danced before her eyes, wolves crowned in silver fire, a child born under a red eclipse, a kingdom divided by betrayal. And at the center of it all, a woman with eyes that glowed like hers. Her breath caught. That's my mother. Kale stiffened. What? She turned to him, voice shaking. She wasn't just a villager. She was moonborn, descended from the first silver wolf. And my father. She faltered, the next image making her heart plummet. A dark wolf wreathed in shadows, crimson eyes burning the same as the Bloodfang Alpha. Her voice cracked. My father was one of them. Kyle's expression hardened, a war between rage and sorrow flickering across his face. The bond between them pulsed painfully, as if it too recoiled at the truth. But the runes weren't done. They flared brighter, words etching themselves into the stone as if freshly carved. The blood of light and shadow will awaken the throne. Chosen must choose. The ground trembled. The silver flames Lyra had awakened surged again, uncontrolled, ripping through the chamber. Kyle shielded her, but as the light dimmed, another figure stood at the entrance, hood lowered at last. The cloaked man's face was revealed, and Lyra's knees buckled. It was her father. Episode 10. The First Bite. During battle, Lyra is bitten, igniting uncontrollable powers and leaving Kale conflicted. The cloaked figure lowered his hood fully, and Lyra's world cracked. His face was older, harsher, carved by battles and sins, but the eyes, the crimson fire, were the same as the Alpha who had claimed her. "Daughter," he said, voice dripping with pride and venom. Kale's growl thundered like a storm, his body tensing as though ready to rip the man apart. But before a single blow could fall, the forest roared with the sound of war. The Bloodfang had returned. Kyle shoved Lyra behind him, his golden aura flaring. "You will not touch her." Her father smirked, unfazed. "Touch her? Kyle, you fool. She is mine already. Her blood carries me." His eyes shifted to Lyra, burning with an unsettling warmth. "And soon, she will carry my power." The ground shook as wolves clashed outside, snarls and screams mingling with the crack of breaking bones. The rival clan had launched a full assault on Kyle's sanctuary. There was no time for arguments, the war had come to them. Kyle shifted mid-step, his massive black wolf form colliding with the enemy that broke through the chamber doors. Lyra tried to summon her silver fire, but her father's words rattled in her head, tearing her focus. "Daughter, mine." "Lyra!" Kyle's voice slammed into her through the bond. "Fight!" She raised her hands, fire sparking, when a Bloodfang wolf lunged at her. Its teeth sank into her shoulder before she could react. Agony ripped through her body, searing hot and endless, her scream echoing like shattered glass. But then, something broke. The silver fire didn't just return, it exploded. Her veins lit up like molten rivers, silver and shadow intertwining. The bite had awakened something buried deep, a fusion of both bloodlines. Lyra's body convulsed as her eyes blazed with silver light streaked with crimson. The attacking wolf was incinerated instantly, reduced to ash. Every pack member froze, even Kale. The air thickened, vibrating with raw power that didn't belong fully to the Moonborn, nor to the Bloodfang. Kyle shifted back, his chest heaving as he stared at her. "Lyra, what are you?" Her father laughed, triumphant. "Exactly what I intended. The prophecy's vessel, half light, half shadow, the only one who can claim the throne." But Lyra wasn't listening. The power inside her raged like a beast unleashed, uncontrollable. Flames erupted from her hands, splitting stone, scorching earth, threatening friend and foe alike. Wolves scrambled to retreat, but Kale didn't move. He stood firm in the inferno, his golden eyes locked on her trembling figure. "Listen to me, Lyra," he said through the bond, his voice steady despite the chaos. "You are not your father. You are not his weapon. You are mine, my equal. Take control." Her knees buckled, power clawing at her mind. She wanted to believe him, to anchor herself in his words, but the shadows whispered louder. "Burn them, break them, rule them." Her father extended a hand, eyes gleaming with victory. "Yes, daughter, give in, bite the world back, and it will kneel." Tears blurred her vision as the silver-crimson blaze consumed her. She lifted her eyes to Kale, torn between his plea and her father's command. But before she could choose, she collapsed forward, and when Kale caught her, he froze. Her teeth had pierced into his flesh. The first bite was his. Episode 11. The Shadow Alpha. A dark alpha rises from the rival clan, threatening both Lyra and Kale's pack. Hook. Kale staggered, eyes wide as Lyra's teeth sank into his flesh. The bond between them flared not with warmth, but with something volatile and burning, as though fire and shadow warred inside his veins. Lyra collapsed in his arms, trembling, her silver-crimson aura dimming but not fading. For the first time, The mighty Alpha King felt fear not of his enemies, but of what she had awakened in him. And then, the earth split with a howl that was not of this world. From the battlefield outside, wolves scattered as a presence descended like a storm. The night thickened, shadows bleeding across the ground, swallowing the moonlight. Every creature froze as an enormous wolf emerged, its fur blacker than night, its eyes glowing blood red. "The Shadow Alpha," Kyle whispered, his voice ragged as he tried to steady Lyra in his arms. The rival clan dropped to their knees, heads bowed. Even the Bloodfang trembled in reverence. This was not just another leader. It was the heir of darkness, the one spoken of in hushed warnings and broken prophecies. The wolf shifted, and a towering figure stood, his face carved from cruelty. "You kept her from me long enough," he said, his voice resonating with an unnatural echo. His gaze landed on Lyra, and a smile crept across his lips. "The prophecy's vessel. And now, the one who bit you, Kyle. How poetic." Kyle growled low, his hands tightening around Lyra protectively. "You'll never touch her." The Shadow Alpha chuckled. "Touch her? No, I will claim her, as destiny commands. But first, I will break you." Before Kale could respond, pain ripped through his body. His vision blurred as black flames licked across his arm where Lyra's bite still burned. The infection wasn't natural. It was spreading through him, mingling with his golden aura, twisting it. His wolf howled inside, caught between light and shadow. Lyra stirred weakly, hearing his anguish through the bond. "Kyle," her voice cracked. "I didn't mean to." "Don't," he whispered, forcing a smirk through clenched teeth. "Don't you dare blame yourself." But even as he said it, he could feel the shadow trying to root itself in his soul. The Shadow Alpha's laughter echoed, deep and cruel. "Yes, let her watch as you fall. The Alpha King, undone not by me, but by the girl you swore to protect." Kale's wolves rushed to his side, but the Shadow Alpha raised his hand. Darkness rippled outward, scattering them like dry leaves in a storm. He was too powerful, his strength fed by something beyond the mortal plane. Kale fought to stand, dragging himself upright with Lyra clinging to him. His golden eyes burned, but there was a new tint, threads of shadow creeping into his irises. "I will not fall to you," he snarled. The Shadow Alpha's smirk widened. "Then prove it. Defend her, while your own power betrays you." The sky roared as the Shadow Alpha shifted back into his monstrous wolf form, darkness spilling across the battlefield like a living plague. Kyle felt the shadows rising in his own veins, threatening to consume him. Lyra reached for him desperately, her hands glowing faint silver. But before she could act, Kyle dropped to one knee, his voice breaking into a guttural growl. When he raised his head again, his golden eyes were gone. They burned with black fire. Episode 12, Forbidden Territory. Lyra ventures into enemy lands to retrieve a sacred relic that can save her clan. "Kyle?" Lyra whispered, her heart pounding as she stared into eyes that no longer belonged to the Alpha she knew. His golden light had been consumed, replaced with the searing darkness of the Shadow Alpha's curse. For one terrifying moment, she feared she had already lost him. But when his trembling hands dropped hers and his growl deepened into something feral, she realized the truth. If she didn't act fast, Kale would turn into the very monster sworn to destroy her. "Stay back, Lyra," he snarled, his voice fractured between his own and something darker. His claws dug into the dirt, fighting the corruption twisting through his veins. Lyra's chest ached, the bond between them pulling taut, every thread of it filled with his torment. The Shadow Alpha's laughter thundered across the battlefield. "See? He belongs to me now. Soon the Alpha King will fall, and she will have no protector." Lyra's hands shook, but deep within her, a spark ignited. She remembered the whispers she'd heard in the forest sanctuary. The relic of moondust, hidden in forbidden lands, holds the power to cleanse or consume. It was dangerous, nearly impossible to retrieve, but it was the only hope of saving Kale, her pack, and herself. With a final burst of strength, Kale slammed his fist into the earth, cracking stone beneath him, forcing the shadows back momentarily. His eyes flickered, half golden, half black. "Go!" he roared. "Before I lose control completely. Find it. The relic." Tears blurred her vision. "I'm not leaving you." "You must." His voice cracked with agony. "If you stay, I'll be the one who kills you." The rival wolves began to advance, but Lyra unleashed a blinding silver aura that forced them back. With her last ounce of will, she ran through fire, through blood, through shadows, leaving Kale behind as the Shadow Alpha circled him like a predator savoring its kill. Days blurred into nights as Lyra pushed deeper into hostile lands. Every step was stalked by whispers of danger, enemy scouts, cursed forests, rivers thick with black mist. Yet her resolve never wavered. The bond tethered her to Kale's suffering, every pulse of his pain urging her forward. At last, she reached the Forbidden Valley, a jagged canyon where the air shimmered unnaturally, the ground littered with bones. In the center stood a stone altar, and upon it, the relic, a crystalline shard glowing faintly with moonlight. Its beauty was otherworldly, but the air around it reeked of corruption. Lyra stepped forward, heart hammering. Just as her fingers brushed the relic, a low growl echoed behind her. From the shadows of the canyon emerged not one, but a pack of wolves with eyes as black as Kale's had become. At their center, towering and cloaked in ash, was a figure she recognized instantly, one she thought long dead. "Welcome home, Lyra," the figure said, his smile cruel. It was her uncle, the traitor who had slaughtered her parents, and he now guarded the relic. Episode 13. The Moon Temple. The relic reveals her connection to the Moon Temple, the source of all werewolf magic. "Uncle?" The word slipped from Lyra's lips like poison, bitter and trembling. She could barely breathe as she stared into the face of the man who had haunted her nightmares for years, the man who had betrayed her parents, sold her clan to their enemies, and vanished into shadow. Now, here he stood, alive, powerful, and guarding the very relic she needed to save Kale. "But you should be dead." His smile widened, cruel and sharp. "Death is for the weak, child. The Moon Temple chose differently for me. It gave me new life and new power. Power you'll never be strong enough to claim." The relic pulsed faintly on the altar between them, its glow rhythmically matching the frantic beat of Lyra's heart. She could feel it tugging at her, whispering her name, beckoning her closer. But her uncle's pack closed in, black-eyed wolves circling with snarls that echoed through the canyon. "You betrayed us!" Lyra spat, her voice shaking but fierce. "You slaughtered your own blood." His laughter cut through the night. "Slaughter? No. Sacrifice. Your parents wanted to keep you from your destiny. They feared the prophecy. But I embraced it. You, Lyra, are the key to the temple itself. And once I drain the relic's power through your veins, the world will kneel to me." Her skin prickled. The whispers of the relic grew louder, urging her not to flee, but to claim it. "Take me, Lyra. Your blood is mine, and mine is yours." The ground trembled beneath her feet. Silver light shot out from the relic, wrapping around her wrists and illuminating her mark. For a moment, time froze. The wolves stopped growling, her uncle's eyes narrowed, and Lyra felt herself being pulled into a vision. She stood beneath an ancient temple carved into the cliffs of the moon. Wolves of light surrounded her, their howls echoing in harmony. A voice calm, powerful, eternal spoke within her soul. "Child of the bloodline, guardian of the dawn, you are bound to the Moon Temple. Through you, its power will rise again." Lyra gasped and stumbled back to reality, the vision burning in her veins. Her uncle's expression twisted in rage. No, it can't be you. I was promised the temple's gift." Lyra's pulse thundered. For the first time, she understood. She wasn't just another wolf. She was born of the Moon Temple itself, chosen by the relic long before her birth. That was why the Shadow Alpha wanted her. That was why Kale had nearly fallen, everything tied back to her. Her uncle lunged, claws extended, his pack surging forward with him. Lyra reached desperately for the relic. Her fingers brushed its surface warm, pulsing, alive. A flood of moonlight surged into her, knocking the wolves back in a blast of silver fire. But as she clutched the relic to her chest, her scream filled the canyon. Her veins lit up like rivers of silver fire, her body trembling under the sheer force of the temple's power. And when she looked up, her uncle was smiling again, not in defeat, but in triumph. "Exactly as the temple foretold," he whispered. "You've awakened it, and now, Lyra, you'll burn alive from the inside out." Episode 14, Heart of the Pack. Lyra solidifies her bond with Kyle, but internal pack politics threaten their unity. Hook. The silver fire seared through her veins, burning, twisting, consuming. Lyra collapsed to her knees, clutching the relic, her scream echoing against the canyon walls. Her uncle's laughter pierced the night, triumphant and cruel. "This is it," she thought. "The temple's power will destroy me from the inside out." But then, warmth, fierce and steady, wrapped around her like a shield. A familiar scent of cedar and storm swept over her. Kyle. He burst into the canyon with a roar that shook the ground, his claws tearing through her uncle's wolves like shadows dissolving before the dawn. His golden eyes locked on her, blazing with both fury and fear. "Lyra! Hold on!" he shouted, vaulting over a broken boulder. The bond between them ignited in that instant, her mark flaring, his aura colliding with hers. She felt his heartbeat pounding inside her chest, as though it were her own. The relic's fire no longer burned. It flowed, tamed by his presence, drawn into rhythm with their bond. Together, they stilled the chaos. Kyle caught her trembling body in his arms. "You stubborn girl," he growled, though his voice cracked with relief. "Do you have any idea what you've just done?" Her uncle snarled from across the canyon, face twisted with fury. "She awakened it, but she cannot control it. The temple's power will consume her." Lyra's voice was faint, but steady. "Not if Cal stands with me." The words weren't just defiance. They were truth. The relic pulsed, responding to her conviction, to their bond. The rival wolves hesitated, their eyes darting between Kale's fury and Lyra's glowing mark. And in that hesitation, Kale seized the moment. With a commanding snarl, he lifted Lyra to her feet, their joined presence radiating dominance. The wolves backed away, ears flattened. Even her uncle faltered, retreating into shadow with a final hiss. "This isn't over. The temple will take what is owed." By dawn, Kale carried Lyra back to his pack's stronghold. The camp buzzed with whispers, some wolves bowing in awe at the sight of her silver-lit veins, others glaring with suspicion. "She's dangerous," muttered one. "The relic's power belongs to the Alpha, not some outsider girl," another spat. Kale silenced them with a growl. "She is under my protection. Her blood saved me. Her power saved you all. Question her again, and you question me." Yet Lyra could feel it, the distrust simmering beneath their obedience. Wolves loyal to Kale watched her with respect, but others, hardened and jealous, whispered in corners, plotting. She had proven her worth to him, but not to the pack, and if unity faltered, her bond with Kale might not be enough to hold them together. That night, beneath the full glow of the moon, Kale clasped her wrist, his touch firm. "We need to show them," he said. "Not just that you're powerful, but that you are one of us. Heart of the pack." Lyra lifted her gaze, determination glinting in her eyes. "Then let them test me." A cold wind swept through the camp, carrying a scent that made every wolf stiffen. Betrayal. From the shadows, a wolf's voice rose in challenge. "She is no heart of this pack, she is its curse." And with a snarl, one of Kale's own lieutenants lunged for Lyra's throat. Episode 15, The Darkest Eclipse. A rare lunar eclipse awakens dormant enemies. Lyra's powers surge uncontrollably. The lieutenant's fangs grazed her throat before Kale's roar shattered the night. Wolves scattered, growls and howls exploding into chaos. The camp split between those loyal to their alpha and those consumed by fear of Lyra's power. But above them all, the moon darkened, a creeping shadow sliding across its silver face. The lunar eclipse, a phenomenon whispered of in legends, a harbinger of ruin and awakening. Kale slammed his lieutenant to the ground, pinning him with claws at his throat. "You dare challenge me?" he snarled, his golden eyes burning like fire. The traitor's growl faltered, but his words carried venom. "She'll destroy us all, Kale. The temple's power was never meant for her. The eclipse proves it." Gasps rippled through the wolves as the sky grew darker, the moon bleeding into crimson shadow. Lyra's body shuddered. Her mark pulsed violently, silver light spilling from her veins like liquid fire. She staggered back, clutching her chest, pain lancing through her. Her scream mingled with the howls of the pack. Kyle caught her shoulders. "Lyra, focus. Breathe through it. Stay with me." But she couldn't. Visions slammed into her, the moon temple crumbling, wolves devouring one another, Kyle falling into shadows as a monstrous figure rose from the darkness. A voice thundered inside her head. "When the eclipse reigns, the heart of the wolf will be tested. One bloodline must perish for the other to endure." Her knees buckled. Kyle pulled her against him, his aura flaring to shield her. But the silver fire inside her lashed out, striking wolves around them. Some yelped and fell back, burned by moonlight. Panic erupted. Half the pack backed away, snarling in terror, while others dropped to their knees in awe. "See?" another wolf shouted. "She cannot control it. She'll kill us all." The division grew sharper by the heartbeat. The eclipse deepened, and the ground itself quaked, as if the forest trembled beneath the prophecy. From beyond the trees, a chilling howl split the air, long, deep, filled with hunger. Wolves, Kyle thought, long dead, stirred again, ancient enemies bound to the eclipse's call. Kyle tightened his hold on Lyra. "They're coming. The dead do not rest under the blood moon." Lyra forced her gaze upward. The moon's last sliver of silver vanished, swallowed by crimson shadow. The relic at her side burned hotter, sinking with her veins. She gasped. "Kyle, I can feel them waking. Something's wrong. It's not just the rivals. There's something older, darker." Kyle's jaw clenched, his protective fury warring with the truth he couldn't deny. "Then we fight. But Lyra, if you lose control, they'll use your power to finish what they started centuries ago." Her heart thundered. She wanted to believe she could master it, that the bond between them was enough. But as the first of the awakened wolves burst into the clearing, rotting eyes glowing, fangs dripping shadow, her mark erupted, silver fire blasting skyward in a torrent she couldn't stop. The wolves froze. Every eye turned to her, as the moon's red glow cloaked her body in an aura not of this world. Kale's breath hitched, torn between awe and dread, and then her uncle's voice slithered from the shadows. "Yes, let it consume you, Lyra. Tonight, under the darkest eclipse, you are mine." Episode 16, Captured by Shadows. Lyra is taken by a mysterious rival alpha with a sinister agenda. "Yes, let it consume you, Lyra. Tonight, under the darkest eclipse, you are mine." His voice curled like smoke, venomous and commanding. Kyle lunged forward with a roar, but the shadows themselves moved to intercept, thick tendrils clawing from the ground to hold him back. Lyra staggered, the silver fire in her veins spiraling out of control, her body caught between Kyle's desperate reach and the suffocating pull of her uncle's darkness. The forest erupted in chaos. Wolves loyal to Kyle hurled themselves at the shadow wolves rising from the eclipse's call. Their eyes glowed sickly green, their forms both solid and smoke, snarling with unholy strength. Every clash sent sparks of silver and black light across the battlefield. Kyle's aura blazed golden, slicing through the shadows. "Stay with me, Lyra," he shouted, fighting to push forward. But the darkness coiled tighter around her. Her uncle stepped into view, a tall, lean figure cloaked in midnight, his eyes reflecting both kinship and malice. "You can't fight it, child. The temple's relic only hastens what you already are. You are the eclipse's chosen." Lyra gritted her teeth, trying to summon control. "I'm not yours. I belong to no shadow. She unleashed a burst of moonfire that sent wolves scattering, but it drained her. Her knees gave out. That was the moment her uncle had been waiting for. He raised his hand, shadows twisting into chains of obsidian smoke, wrapping around her wrists and ankles. She screamed as they burned cold against her skin, draining her strength, dimming the silver glow. Kyle tore through the last shadow in his way and reached for her. Their fingers brushed, their bond sparking with desperate heat, only for the chains to yank her backward into the darkness. No. Kale's roar ripped through the night, but the shadows swallowed her whole. Lyra's vision blurred. Through the haze, she caught one last glimpse of Kale fighting like a storm unleashed, blood streaking his golden fur, his howl carrying her name into the crimson night. And then, silence. When she opened her eyes again, she was no longer in the forest. Stone walls rose around her, etched with runes that glowed faintly under the dying eclipse light. Torches burned blue, their flames casting twisted shadows across the chamber. A throne of blackened bones loomed at the far end, and upon it sat a figure she had never seen before. Not her uncle, someone worse. A man with broad shoulders, scars crisscrossing his chest, and eyes as dark as the void studied her with cruel amusement. His presence radiated power, the kind of alpha strength that bent the air itself. "So," he said, his voice deep and deliberate, "the Moon Temple's chosen finally falls into my hands." Her heart pounded. She could barely speak. "Who are you?" The man smiled, sharp and merciless. "I am Darius, Alpha of the Forgotten Bloodline. And you, little wolf, are the key to ending Kale and remaking the world in shadow." Before Lyra could protest, the shadows tightened around her throat, silencing her. Darius leaned forward, his eyes burning with promise. "By the next moonrise, you will kneel, not to Kyle, not to the temple, but to me." Episode 18, The Forbidden Pact. An ancient alliance forces Lyra to make an impossible choice that could betray Kale. The wolf's claws sliced through the air, inches from Kale's throat. Betrayal burned sharper than steel, but Kale didn't falter. His own pack, his brother in arms, now lunged at him, eyes glowing with that cursed green light. Somewhere deep inside, Lyra's bond flared with terror, warning him. The shadows aren't done yet. Kale twisted, golden fur flashing as his massive jaws clamped down on the traitor's shoulder. Bones cracked, blood sprayed, but still the wolf snarled with unnatural strength, refusing to yield. Around them, the pack erupted into chaos, wolves growling, torn between loyalty and fear. Rylan roared, "Stand with your alpha!" Yet hesitation split the ranks. Kale pinned the traitor beneath his paw, golden eyes blazing. "Tell me who commands you." A guttural laugh bubbled from the wolf's bloodied mouth. "Not who. What? The shadows rise, Alpha. And soon, she will choose us." The words struck deeper than claws ever could. She? Lyra. Kale froze just long enough for the traitor to slash his chest before Rylan leapt, finishing the turncoat with a fatal snap. Kale staggered back, chest heaving, his thoughts consumed by the warning. What choice could force Lyra away from him? Meanwhile, far within the fortress, Lyra's chains glowed faintly. She had stopped struggling. Not from surrender, but from listening. The walls whispered, carrying voices of the ancients. Shadows slithered into the cracks, forming the outline of a woman cloaked in moonlight and smoke. "Child of fire and blood," the apparition whispered, her voice both tender and cruel. "You cannot win this war tethered to one alpha alone. There is a pact older than the clans, older than Kale, that demands your blood. Break your bond, and the shadows will give you strength beyond imagining. Refuse, and Kale will die, dragged into the abyss meant for you." Lyra's breath caught, her pulse hammered against the chains. No, there must be another way. The phantom tilted her head, eyes glowing with an unholy light. "There is no other way. Choose. Loyalty to your mate, or salvation for your people." Her uncle's faint voice echoed beyond the cell, urging her to resist. Yet Darius appeared, stepping into the dim glow, his smirk widening. You see now, niece. Even the ancients know the bond is your weakness. Break it and you'll become untouchable. Break it and Kale is free from dragging you down. Tears burned Lyra's eyes. Her heart pulled toward Kale's fury, his golden fire, the mate who would tear the world apart for her. But the vision's words cut deep. If she clung to him, he might fall with her. Back in the forest, Kale howled into the night, the sound shaking earth and sky. Lyra felt it slam into her chest like a spear, his defiance, his desperate love. And still, the apparition's words whispered in her ear. Choose, or lose him forever. Lyra's trembling hand reached for the glowing rune on her chain, the mark that bound her bond to Kale. One touch, and the bond would shatter. Her lips parted with a whisper that could seal their fate. I choose. And the chains flared white-hot, drowning her in blinding light before the word could escape. Episode 19, Battle of Alphas. Kale and the rival Alpha clash in a war that will decide the fate of the Silver Wolf clan. The chains burned with searing white light, blinding Lyra before her choice could be spoken. The Phantom's voice cut through the blaze. The time for words is over. Now, the Alphas decide. The ground shook, and far above, two howls split the sky, one golden, one drenched in shadow. The war of Alphas had begun. Lyra fell to her knees, the cell dissolving into smoke, her spirit tethered to the battlefield. The world around her reshaped into chaos, wolves clashing beneath a blood-stained moon, their growls echoing through the valley. She could see him, Kyle, towering in golden fur, his claws dripping with fury. Across from him emerged the rival Alpha, colossal and monstrous, his pelt as black as midnight, his eyes glowing a venomous green. The Shadow Alpha. Kyle's chest still bore the gash from betrayal, but he stood unyielding. You'll never take her, he snarled, his voice a thunder that rippled across the pack lines. The Shadow Alpha's laughter was a low rumble, curling like smoke. She is already mine, Kyle. The prophecy doesn't bind her to you. It binds her to the victor. And tonight, that will be me. At the signal, the battlefield erupted. Wolves tore into each other, fangs snapping, claws rending flesh. Sparks of silver power collided with shadows that reeked of rot. Lyra's heart raced. She could feel Kyle's rage pounding in her chest as though it were her own heartbeat. Kyle lunged, jaws clamping down on the rival's shoulder. For a moment, golden fire blazed brighter than shadow. But the rival Alpha shifted unnaturally, his body slipping through Kale's grip like smoke, reforming with claws already aimed at Kale's throat. Kale! Lyra screamed, though no sound left her lips. Her spirit flickered between cell and battlefield, torn apart by the forbidden pack's magic. Kale barely dodged the strike, rolling to his feet. Blood soaked the dirt, his golden fur matted, but his eyes never faltered. You fight with stolen power, he growled. But a king's strength isn't shadow, it's the bond he protects. As if summoned, Lyra's chest seared with light. The chains in her prison rattled, glowing brighter, responding to Kale's defiance. The apparition hissed in her ear. Break it now, sever him, and he will live. Stay bound, and he dies. Her trembling fingers hovered again over the rune. Tears streamed as she looked through the smoke, watching Kale falter under the rival's crushing weight. Every fiber of her being screamed to save him, yet how? The rival Alpha slammed Kale into the ground, pinning him with claws sunk deep into his shoulders. Yield, Kale. She is mine. She has already chosen. No! Lyra's spirit surged with fire, her scream shattering through the veil. The battlefield froze for a heartbeat as every wolf turned to the sound. Her body still chained, but her spirit radiant, aflame with silver and gold, materialized between the two Alphas. Both Kale and the Shadow Alpha stared, their fates bound to her single choice. The rival Alpha's claws dug deeper into Kale's flesh, drawing blood. Say the word, girl. Say you are mine, and I will spare him. Kale's golden eyes locked on hers, fierce and unbroken. Don't you dare! Lyra stood trembling between them, power blazing, her next word ready to decide the war. Episode 20, The Moonbound Heir. Lyra fully embraces her destiny, uniting the clans and becoming the leader she was born to be, but a new shadow looms in the distance, hinting at a possible sequel. Choose, Lyra. Choose or he dies. The rival Alpha's claws pressed deeper into Kyle's chest, crimson spilling onto the battlefield. Every heartbeat echoed like thunder, every eye locked on her trembling form. This was no longer a battle of strength. It was a war of destiny, and destiny was hers to claim. Lyra's spirit blazed, silver light searing through the chains that bound her. The prophecy's whispers roared in her mind. The moonbound heir shall rise, not by blood, but by choice. Her gaze burned into the Shadow Alpha's venomous green eyes. I will never be yours. Her voice split the night, carrying across the field like the howl of the moon itself. The chains shattered, and power cascaded through her veins like fire and ice entwined. In that instant, the battlefield trembled. Lyra's body and spirit fused, her form rising with a glow that rivaled the moon. The mark on her skin flared, silver threads weaving around her like armor. Wolves on both sides stumbled back in awe. Even Kale, pinned and bleeding, could only stare at her with reverence. The Shadow Alpha roared, lunging, but Lyra lifted her hand. A pulse of moonlight erupted, striking him mid-air and hurling him across the field. The ground split, shadow sizzling as though burned. Kyle fell to his knees, his golden fur drenched in blood. Lyra rushed to him, her hands trembling as she pressed against his wounds. "Stay with me." Her voice cracked, tears streaming. The mark on her wrist glowed brighter, and beneath her palms, golden light merged with silver. His wounds sealed, his chest rising steady once more. Gasps echoed from the battlefield. Wolves bowed instinctively, the bond of power undeniable. Lyra had become more than a girl with a prophecy. She was the moonbound heir, chosen to unite them all. Kale's hand brushed her cheek, his voice weak but certain. "They'll follow you now. You've become what even I could not." Before she could answer, the Shadow Alpha rose again, his form cracked and flickering. Shadows poured from his mouth as he howled. "This is not the end. Beyond me, greater darkness waits. You think yourself a queen, but you are only the beginning." His body shattered into smoke, carried away by the wind. But his words lingered, a venomous promise. Lyra turned to the battlefield. Wolves of both clans had fallen silent, their heads bowed. Slowly, one after another, they knelt, not to Kale, not to the Shadow Alpha's memory, but to her. The silver glow of the moon crowned her as its heir. Her voice carried, steady and unyielding. "No more divisions, no more bloodshed. Tonight, the clans are one." Cheers rose, howls piercing the night sky in unison. For the first time in generations, rival packs lifted their voices together, the prophecy fulfilled, the moonbound heir risen. Yet as the cheers faded, Lyra's heart shivered. Her gaze drifted to the horizon, where the shadows of the forest thickened unnaturally. For a moment she saw it, a colossal figure, darker than night, its eyes glowing red, watching from beyond. The prophecy was fulfilled, but something far greater had been awakened. And Lyra, the moonbound heir, realized her story was only the beginning.